Monday. Not sure how you did it, but you actually survived an entire 2 days without hearing from Tom. Good job to you. And once again, good luck.
Welcome back to Ocala Talk on a Monday like this. Day after Independence Day. You know, some people in the athletic world would say Independence Day came about a week and a half ago when the Supreme Court told the NCAA, yep, players control their own likenesses. They're in charge of their own signatures, likenesses, all that, and they can make money from it. Now Jacob Copeland, sophomore wide receiver for the University of Florida, had a great tweet this weekend. He goes, remember, at the end of the day, if you don't produce on the field, those deals that you sign mean nothing. Galen Unall from Life South joins us. Galen, do you agree with that statement?
No. Because it doesn't really matter what you do on the field if what you're doing off the field brings enough attention to your social media or to whatever.
So like the punter, the kicker from UCF that had like 2 million followers on YouTube and was told he had to cancel his YouTube YouTube account because it took away from his amateurism. You're talking about stuff like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you are entertaining enough, and the bulk of these deals, by the way, will be via the social media platform. Perfect example. There are two twin girls who play basketball. I can't remember if they play at like Arizona State or something. Right? They're extremely attractive, and they're on Instagram, and they have millions of followers. They play basketball, but it has nothing to do. People don't follow them because of their basketball prowess, right? So, but historically, they've been unable to make any money off of their likeness because they were college athletes and they played basketball. By the way, that's a non-revenue generating sport if they had a full scholarship.
Dakota and Dylan Gonzalez.
There you go.
They have
perfect example.
They're for the UNLV women's basketball team.
All right.
And they're called Beautiful Ballers on Instagram.
There you go. And there's a lot of examples like that where it doesn't, again, marketing, since when does marketing people really care? They care if whether or not you could sell that product.
Well, Will Greer, who played football here at the University of Florida and then he transferred to West Virginia, he was a Division I quarterback, threw a touchdown to beat Tennessee, all over Sports Illustrated, all over Sports Center and everything. His brother was a bigger star and still is, and he is. His brother, who was a year younger than him, had over 3 million Instagram followers, 2 million Facebook followers, 2 million YouTube followers, was making millions of dollars while his brother was playing for books and housing.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, it doesn't matter what you do on the field. That's the bottom line. And if you were to sign one of these deals, which I think will come, where you sign a 4-year marketing deal, doesn't matter what you do on the field. It's a 4-year agreement. You're going to get X amount no matter what.
Do you think, you alluded to this a little earlier, do you think the 4-year signing agreements with these marketing firms are going to shut the transfer portal down for the most part?
No. I think it's going to make it even bigger.
But if I sign a 4-year deal with the marketing firm that is on the campus of the University of Florida, and then I transfer to the University of Georgia, how am I going to be able to sign a marketing deal with Georgia when I've already got a 4-year? I'm locked up for 4 years in Florida.
Really simple. Florida will continue to do your marketing for you. Doesn't mean you can't transfer. Now, it all depends on how that contract's written, right?
Florida's not going to help any kid out that's at Georgia to transfer to Georgia.
Well, it all depends on how the contract's written. In theory, you're right. Right? That's how. It depends on if the person, if the kid who's going to sign that scholarship has a good agent or not. And that's why Lee Steinberg is all in this. He wants to start signing these kids in high school. I know for a fact he's reached out to a certain basketball player who's a rising senior. He's already reached out to him. He's a top 5 basketball player in the country. and he's already reached out to him as trying to ink him to a marketing representation agreement.
Here's my problem with that. And I'll tell you a little story that I know to be true because I talked to the person that this story was about. There was when Ray Goff took over at the University of Georgia, and Coach Russell was able to come to Georgia Southern. Ray Goff sent out his recruiters. They sent out teams of people. They're like scouts, and they go and they look at high school kids and everything. And a guy walked back into Ray Goff's office at the University of Georgia and said, "I've seen the greatest football player that I've ever seen in my 31 years of scouting college football players. I saw the greatest player I've ever seen." He goes, "Better than Herschel Walker?" Guy goes, "Well, I didn't scout Herschel Walker, but the people that I've seen with my own eyes scouting, this is the best person I've ever seen." He goes, "Well, did we ink him to a scholarship?" He goes, "Nah." He goes, "What, he got no interest in the University of Georgia?" He goes, No, he's coming to the University of Georgia. But we didn't ink him to a scholarship because he's in the 6th grade. And he had seen Champ Bailey, was who he was talking about at the time, who ended up being a very good college football player, a serviceable pro football player. I don't know if he's the greatest football player of all time, but that's how this guy described him. And believe me, if they could have, they would have signed him to a scholarship in the 6th grade. That's where I got a problem with these agents getting involved because, like you said, they're going to start signing 17-year-olds to agent contracts and everything in single-parent households where they may not have the ability to have a lawyer to help them know what the agent's putting them through or not putting them through. I can see some unscrupulous things happening at the high school age and to the freshmen coming in that I think is going to be the bad side of this Supreme Court decision.
All right, let's just work what you're saying out. Why is that 7th grader who happens to be in the top 1% of basketball players in the country at his age, right, compared to any other 7th grader? What's worse? What's worse? Somebody comes to his door and says, "Hey, we'd like to ink you to a marketing representation agreement," or, "Hey, do you want to go and work on the streets with me and deal drugs?" What's the difference? Right? Well, I mean, obviously there's major differences, but both are going to happen. I'd much rather that kid at least be able to make money off of himself. And again, I don't think of it that way.
I think it takes.
I think of all the good that it's going to do.
I think though that if you do that and you ink a kid to a deal and you make it a business deal while they're in the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade, that you take away. It's no longer a game then. It's all about business now.
All right. Let's play this out. Trinity Catholic, right here in Ocala.
Yes.
They offer scholarships for athletics. Right?
Yes.
They do. They don't. No
they don't officially do that, but yes, I'll agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, they do.
100% they
however
do.
You want to
Bishop Kenny does it. Episcopal does it.
Bowles
does it. Trinity Christian does it. But it's not officially that they do it. Yeah.
I'm not throwing stones. I'm not.
By the way, Vanguard recruits too with the way you can transfer.
Well, I don't want to get in trouble. All right. Okay. So what is the difference when that kid goes into his 9th grade year and gets a scholarship? We'll just call it a scholarship with lots and lots of help to get all the grants they can. Aren't they now a paid athlete? Aren't they now paid to play football?
Okay. I haven't thought of it.
How is it different? How is it different?
Technically, yes, they are getting an education. They're getting an offer that they wouldn't normally get if they because they don't have they don't have the economic abilities to pay for a private school, and they're getting it paid for because of their football prowess in the 8th grade or 9th grade. Yes, they're getting paid to play football.
Okay, and so would you have a problem if that, let's say, I won't use any schools, I won't use names. Let's just say School X has a quarterback whose name is Y, right? And a local car dealership says, "Look, I love School X and I love School Y. I want to pay player Y $100,000 to be on a billboard selling my cars." Would you have a problem with that?
If he was in high school, yes, but that's just me.
Why? Why?
Because
Okay,
I think once again, I understand what you're saying, that he's a paid player if he gets a scholarship, but I just think that goes too far and takes the game out of it and makes it all business then.
Let me ask you this. What if there's another kid at school X who isn't an athlete, right? But he's a genius in math. And then the car dealership's like, this kid is so smart. He won the National Merit Scholarship or whatever as a sophomore. I want him to sell my cars because my cars are the most technically advanced and he can represent my brand. Would that be wrong?
Me personally, I'd have a problem with anybody under the age of 18 selling cars, because I worked in the car business and know the edges you have to push.
Okay,
but I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. You're saying, would you have a problem with a 16-year-old that was so advanced in his skills and all that he could be the general manager of a restaurant and be very successful? Would you have a problem with that as opposed to a guy who's a great quarterback and he gets paid, he gets his education paid for coming to play quarterback? I see the analogy there. I just think one is a business and one's a game that you make a business by putting money in front of it.
And how is that kid different, who happens to be a great athlete?
He's not different.
Hundreds of thousands of kids that are selling products right now.
By the way, and I know that I know the AAU has made it a business from the time they're in the 6th grade and everything. I get that, and I'm all for them making money on their likenesses and everything. I just think, and I know you're probably not in this court, I just think there needs to be a line drawn on when that kid can go from being a kid to a businessman or a businesswoman.
Well, okay, hey, as a whole, I agree
16's okay. At 16, I can go to work at McDonald's or I can go to work at Burger King.
Hear me out.
I can also go to work with football or basketball.
Oh, but you know what you can also do? You could also go to Hollywood and become a famous star at the age of 9 or 3 or 2. What's the difference?
That's your parents whoring you out, in my opinion.
Well, it's still the parents whoring you out if you're 16. You cannot sign a contract without an adult's approval until you're 18. What's the difference, Tom? All I'm saying is the athlete should be treated exactly like every other kid, and just because they're a talented athlete doesn't make them.
And your point's good. They are treated like that in tennis. If they're good enough to compete at 15, they're treated that way. Simone Biles is old in gymnastics. When she was 16, 17, 18, she was as marketable as you could get. And I understand that. It's just, I guess there's a part of me that wants to hold the youth to hold on as long as they can. And in reality, that's not fair anymore.
No, I don't care. I agree with you. If I had a child who was like a Disney star, all I have to do is look at their history. Or maybe they're a great singer, Michael Jackson, right? I mean,
look how that turned out.
There's not for every kid who's a star at a very young age, we all expect them to turn out a mess. Miley Cyrus, right? And there are very few exceptions to that rule. Generally speaking, if you're a childhood star, you're a wreck.
Ask Macaulay Culkin.
Sure, perfect.
Corey Haim, ask him. Corey Feldman, ask him.
But under your world, Macaulay Culkin should be treated differently because he dribbles a basketball instead of reading a script.
I don't want my sports turned into a business too early. It's just, that's my own thought. I understand what you're saying.
At what level? Hear me. At what level is sports not a business?
There is no
NCYFL a business.
100% it is.
NCYFL.
There is no time where it's not a business anymore because we've created it that way. There's no time.
You know where it's not a business? When there's not parents directly involved.
100%.
If there are parents involved, it's a business, right? Now, if two kids are playing in the yard, that's a sport, right? And it's not a business. If they're at Tuscaloosa or at Client, right?
Pick up baseball game, pick up basketball game.
Not a sport. Not a sport. But every the Big Sun Youth Soccer League.
I know. I agree
is
with
a sport,
you.
is a business.
100%.
Right?
They're there to turn. They're there to exchange money. It might not always turn a profit, but they're to exchange.
Correct.
I mean, I was in Play It Again Sports the other day. Look at just glancing at baseball bats and everything. A baseball bat now that I would when I was playing baseball, and granted it was 45 years ago. But when I was playing baseball, you'd pay $10 for that bat. $500-$600 for a bat now. Oh, it's a business. I get that, but I think it kind of went away when we stopped playing a sport every season. When we got so focused on one sport and one sport only, I think that's when it became more of a business and less of a recreational event that kids could enjoy. That's my personal feeling. That's all. I
have no problem with that. I understand what you're saying, but
you're right. We should not hold anybody. We should not hold anybody back unless we hold everybody back, and we don't hold everybody back. We allow everybody to earn a living the way they want to, except for athletes.
Correct. And
I agree with that. You're right about that.
That's been my philosophy the whole way. If some moron wants to pay some 16-year-old kid $1 million because they're a genius, fine. Pay him $1 million.
I'm always taken back to a guy from Georgia who was a number 1 overall pick in the NBA, and he had reached his peak at 18, and nobody knew it. They thought he was going.
Sure.
They paid him all this money. Kwame Brown, I've talked to Kwame numerous times. He's a good guy, successful guy, just not an NBA successful guy, but he's been a successful guy and everything. And somebody took a gamble on him, spent a bunch of money on him, and he had already peaked. And then they look at the kid. Kwame Brown, all these experts and these talking heads and all, Kwame Brown was a bust. Kwame Brown's very successful in his life. He's very successful in his business endeavors. He just wasn't successful at the NBA because he'd reached his peak at 18. I just think
he played in the league. He played in the league for 10 years.
I know, but he wasn't. He was not the guy everybody thought. He was not the guy he was supposed to be when they drafted him at 18. He played in the league actually 11 years, but still.
Oh, okay. I mean, he made over $4 million in the NBA.
Right, and he invested it well, and he opened businesses that were successful, and he's a pillar of his community in Georgia.
So what's the problem?
No, the problem is, if you ask anybody, he's a failure. If you ask anybody in the sports world, they would list him as a failure.
Okay.
And so I just have a problem.
Well, if we're looking at draft plus, sure.
I just have a problem with stuff like that.
But again,
so.
see, I really believe that in Europe they have it right. In Europe, they have it right. But what gets in our way is our labor laws.
Hey, they got it right at IMG. Look, in my opinion, if you're going to commit and make it a business and everything from an early age, IMG Academy's got it right.
Well, you do know that 75% of all the people at IMG pay to go there.
Of course. I know that.
And it's $70,000 a year. No, who gets it right is in Europe. They identify talent at a very young age, and then they send you to a soccer camp, right? And
Major League Baseball does it in the islands and in South America, same way.
They had to stop doing it. Now you have to be at least 16. That's been outlawed. But I think it should be coming back. I think you should be a part of that camp, and then if you are that talented, you should be able to go, whether that's basketball, football, baseball, whatever, badminton, and you should be able to go to the camp because guess what? That's what they do at the so-called Olympic sports.
Look, we knew in the 6th grade that Malcolm Birch and John Conrad, 2 kids that I went to junior high school with, you knew in the 6th grade those 2 guys were going to be successful farmers. They were going to be successful at doing something in the outdoors. They weren't going to be the most book smart people. They didn't have any athletic ability whatsoever, but you knew by then that they were going to be farm oriented. And so their parents put them in stuff that was only geared towards farming. Both of them, they're actually partners now in one of the largest onion, peanut, and soybean farms in the state of Georgia. But you knew they were going to be good at that because you could tell right away. So their parents put them in stuff that geared them towards that and that only. That's what you're talking about, something like that.
You're making my point. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And that had nothing to do with
So-
sports.
so-
We knew at an early age, these two guys with 4-H and with FAA and everything, they were heads and shoulders above anybody else, and their love for it was unquestioned. And they're very successful. They're in their 50s now and multimillionaires as farmers.
There you go. What's the problem? Hey, you should get paid for your talents, and nothing else should dictate that. That's always been my philosophy.
Real quick, this weekend there was a basketball tournament in Akron, Ohio at the LeBron James Arena, where LeBron James' traveling team, his son's traveling team, were facing another traveling team. The PA announcer, who is not supposed to do this, it's not a play-by-play guy, it's a PA announcer, lamented on the microphone that Bronny, who is LeBron James' son, gets calls because he's LeBron James' son, at which point LeBron James gets up, comes onto the court, stops the game, goes over and berates the PA announcer for 5 minutes. I mean, is this another one of those I've been entitled all my life and damn it, you're going to listen to me issues?
Sure. Yeah, it's LeBron James. Why are you surprised at it? He's the ultimate millennial athlete.
Look,
And by the way, if you don't think that Bronny gets calls
because he's
of who
LeBron
his
James'
father
son,
is,
of course.
because the referee, by the way, who are fans, are like, wow, if I make a good call, LeBron James is going to notice me. Of course.
And
Of course.
You know, and by the way, the PA announcer's job is not to make that comment over the microphone. His job is to tell you who a foul's on, tell you who's checking in and out of games.
Odds are his son or somebody he likes is on the other team. I mean, if you've been to any of these tournaments, it's all like so-and-so knows so-and-so knows so-and-so is so-and-so's cousin. So, yeah.
Once again, if that's any other parent, they're thrown out of the arena. They're told to leave.
Sure.
There's probably cops called, everything. But this guy thinks he's
Sure.
above all that. And that just, I take
I
exception
don't know
with
if they
it.
call the cops. I don't know if they call the cops.
I don't know. I've seen cops called pretty quickly on parents that I didn't think were anywhere near as unruly as that cops need to be called at football games, and basketball games, and baseball games that I've umpired, refereed, and coached in. That were much less than LeBron berating the PA announcer, stopping the game, holding. I mean, as soon as a parent walks on the
They're
court,
not calling the cops.
as soon as a parent walks on a court, somebody's getting angry. Somebody with the association usually tries to get them off the court. If they refuse, the cops are usually called pretty quick.
All right.
Well, you're not throwing LeBron James off the court at LeBron James Arena.
No. Trust me, the bad publicity for this incident for him berating is more than enough. So it's LeBron James, most overrated athlete maybe of all time.
Wow.
Maybe.
Because he's
I
had
don't like
success. I don't like him either, but he's had success. But I don't know that he's Tony Mandrich
He's
or
overrated.
I don't know he's Tony Mandrich or I don't know that he's
Tony Mandrich,
Brian
everybody knew he was a
Bosworth.
bust
I don't know he's
after
Brian
his first year.
I don't know he's Brian Bosworth. Brian
They knew
Bosworth
he
may
was
have
a
been one of the
bust
most overrated athletes ever.
Oh, heck no. Brian Bosworth was great until he got injured.
Oh dear God, here we
But
go.
Brian Bosworth even was in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. The fourth guy on the team can get in the Pro Bowl because the first three guys don't want to go. Stop.
He was elected to the Pro Bowl.
Oh,
He was an All-Pro.
He was an all bust. Played the position terrible. And let a running back run him over on national TV. Stop.
Oh, that's why you don't like him.
You should give up your linebacker card if you let it get run over on national
Well,
TV.
Yeah, well, that other guy happened to be on some major steroids.
And the other guy may have been if he hadn't tore his hip up because of I don't know
Correct.
why. I don't know why his hip got tore up, but if he hadn't tore his hip up, he may have went down in the annals as probably the best athlete ever. Hey, Galen, where's the Bloodmobile, real quick?
Hey, Bloodmobile today, we're actually down at the Leesburg Walmart, but we're also at the Walmart right there in the shore, so come by and see us. Get the Life Donate Blood.
Galen, from Life South. Hey, enjoy your Monday, Galen.
All right, bye, all.
Talk to you tomorrow. That's Galen from Life South, has joined us every day, thanks to the good folks at Penn Flooring and Just Shipped. We'll be right back after this timeout with hour number 2. Jack O'Brien next.
Broadcasting from the Ocala International Airport, this is WOCA AM, W242CA FM, Ocala, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
It's time for Farm and Ranch headlines on the Southeast AgNet. I'm Tyrone Scribner reporting.
USA
A new secondary market for farmers is being discussed.
Rescuers were given
It's
the
carbon
go-ahead to
credits.
resume the search
The
for
carbon
victims
commodity
of the
market
Surfside,
is
Florida
gaining
building
traction
collapse
in
after
all
the
along the
remaining portion
Midwest
of the
and
building
also
was
being
pulled down
talked
in a
about in the
controlled demolition
Southeast.
Sunday night.
In addition to
Officials say
marketing
the
cash
demolition
crops,
went exactly
producers
as
may
planned
have an
about
opportunity to
10:30
sell
p.m.
carbon
Eastern.
stored in the soil
Pope
on their
Francis went to
operation.
a Rome
There's a
hospital
lot
on
of
Sunday
truth in
for
the idea that
scheduled
farmers are
surgery
the
of his
ultimate
large
stewards of
intestine.
the land.
The news came a few hours
Soil
after Francis
is their
greeted the
most
public in
valuable
St. Peter's
resource,
Square
and
told
farmers
them he
take
would go to
great
Hungary
care,
and
and
Slovakia
that could be
in
a producer
September.
of carbon in the future.
Officials in Cuba
Supply
evacuated
corporations can purchase
180,000 residents amid
carbon
concerns
stored
about
in the soil
flooding
to
from the
offset
deadly
their own
tropical storm
emissions.
Elsa as it
Corporations
rolls
can
along
make
the southern
initial
region
carbon
on Monday.
purchases
The National
by
Hurricane
using
Center
the
said it
land
would gain
management
minimal
industry
strength
as a
after
measure.
Elsa moves over
The
the
problem right
southeastern
now
Gulf
is
of
no
Mexico.
standards
Florida
have been
Governor Ron
applied as
DeSantis
of
on
yet.
Saturday declared a state of
Alabama has
emergency
been
in 15
discussing it,
counties.
and so has you.
This is USA Radio
It's time
News.
for Farm and Ranch headlines.
Awesome and amazing day. Men, John Jubilee with Energized Health, and I want to just talk to you man to man for a moment. 1/3 of men 50 and over suffer with high blood pressure. That high blood pressure medication has a horrible side effect, worse than death. Erectile dysfunction. And it's brutal, but let's just talk about it medically. We have had thousands of people completely reverse diabetes, high blood pressure, irritable bowel syndrome, yes, and ED, raise their testosterone 500 points naturally through the breakthrough science of intercellular hydration. Men, if you're intelligent, you're skeptical. I want you to be skeptical. But go log on to our website, energizedhealth.com. Click that red button, watch a masterclass, and then watch thousands of men just like you who reversed every single issue that I just mentioned. I don't make a claim. My clients make a claim. EnergizedHealth.com.
Tyson.
It's time for Farm and Ranch headlines on the Southeast AgNet. I'm Tyrone Spearman reporting. A new secondary market for farmers is being discussed. It's carbon credits. The carbon commodity market is gaining